Welcome back to Kentucky Sports Television. To continue our UK football preview, we are happy now to be joined by Kyle Tucker from the Louisville Courier-Journal, going to give us his great insight in the world of UK football. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Before we get into all these season and what you expect and those sort of things, I want to go back. We talked earlier in the show about today's press conference. Mark Stoops was visibly upset and very, he doesn't mince his words. He says what he means and says several times, I'm going to be honest with you guys. What did you make of angry Mark Stoops today and the things he was saying about the football team?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting. I think it certainly was notable, and I do think it was pretty genuine. When we talked to him all during the spring, I think all of us could sort of agree that he wasn't overly critical, but he was so reluctant to praise. I think it was obvious in the spring that he was sort of shocked by the talent level he inherited, like how bad it was. And so I thought it was a little surprising this camp that he's been really positive. All through camp, he's been very positive about what he's seen. He said, a couple of days ago, we still have a lot of work to do. We're still not good enough at some positions to win a lot of games. But I went back through and I just posted it on my blog and looked at the opening statements. He's talked to us 9 times after practice since camp started. And in 7 of those, he said good or very good as he described the practice in his opening remarks right after practice. The only other time he expressed any disappointment was after that open practice on Friday when it was pouring down rain. It was a little bit sloppy. But even then, not nearly as bad as today when he opened and just said very poor, very disappointed, very upset. And then from his opening statement, it only got worse. Talked about how they were emotionally and physically weak and wasted a day. So it was pretty stark, I think, in contrast to how he talked and how he sounded and how he looked after practice. He laughed with us and joked with us and smiled, and I think genuinely seemed to be pretty pleased with how things were going, all things considered, up to this point in camp. So it's very notable, I think, that whatever he saw today must have been pretty bad.
When you look at the season, and I know there's been a lot of talk about the process from the coaching staff, and as fans, people say we're going to be patient, we believe in what he's doing. I wonder, though, and I include myself in this, as the season gets going and losses, especially that rough stretch, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, as those losses start to mount, how hard do you think it may be at times to be patient? We can tell ourselves to be patient, but emotionally, do you think Kentucky fans maybe are not quite expecting or maybe not prepared for some of these lumps because Stoops has said, we hear Cal say be patient. Stoops is saying be patient, and it's a different tone, I think.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody's really prepared for how rough it could be because they've been so excited about everything Stoops is doing, and that there's no reason not to be excited about it. They are certainly trending in the right direction. They're upgrading their talent. I mean, when they look at their players and they talk so much about the new guys, that they're getting in players that they think are better players. But the thing is, those are new players, and there aren't enough of them, and they're perilously thin at some positions. They can't afford any injuries at corner, and they already have one of their starting corners, their best corner, Cody Quinn, is out. And they're playing in the toughest league in the country. They have maybe the toughest schedule in the country. They have a brutal stretch where they're going to play 4 top 10 teams, and they are going to take some lumps, and they're probably going to get beat down by a couple of teams. I think we'll see them be more competitive in some of the other games than they were in the past. I'm not sure. I don't know how patient fans are going to be able to be, and I'm sure it is going to be hard. I think one thing that will help is I do, like I said, I think they'll be competitive, more competitive, even in some losses, but also I think what we saw today is what we'll see during the season, and I think a lot of fans wanted to see Joker Phillips do when they were struggling. I think if they get their butt kicked, he's going to come in that press conference room and light it on fire. I think they're going to see some anger. They're going to see I'm not going to take this. We're not going to tolerate it. You're not going to play this poorly type of attitude from Mark Stoops and his staff that I think really bothered some people that they never did see that from Joker Phillips after just a bludgeoning. And there were some of those. There were some games where they got destroyed, and Phillips never really seemed to come in there and set it on fire and say, bang his fist on the table and say, we're going to be better. We're not going to take this. I think you'll see that from Mark Stoops when they struggle. Today was certainly, if today was any indication of that.
We looked at the schedule on the show in groups of 4, and we kind of came away with the consensus that if they can make it to that back half of the schedule, being positive, even though they're probably going to lose to those top 10 teams, some of them in blowouts, if they can get to the Missouri, Vandy, Tennessee, those sort of games, they can compete, maybe win. If Kentucky let's say they get 4 or 5 wins. Some people think that on a great season, everything goes right, they get 6. But if they're going to win at least one of those games at the end of the year, I know you mentioned injuries. What are some of the other things that jump out at you and say this must happen in order for them to maybe win 1 or 2 games that you don't expect?
Well, you said other than injury?
Yeah, other than injuries. Is there anything offensive and defensively that you think would have to surprise you, would have to come together?
Well, we talk about Nate Willis, the new kid, the junior college corner that got there today. I think a guy like him is going to have to step in and prove that he's ready to play big-time college football. And, Cody Quinn, if he gets healthy, he's a guy that's got to – I mean, corner has got to be – and the secondary in general, I think, is going to have to be a pretty pleasant surprise for them. They're really thin. I don't know that they think they're particularly that talented yet, and especially not with any measure of depth. That's going to be an issue, a big-time issue. Linebacker is going to have to be a lot better. We keep asking Mark Stoops and DJ Elliott, does anybody stand out in that linebacker group besides Avery Williamson, who we know he's an all-SEC guy, led the conference in tackles? Anybody stand out at that position besides him? And the other day, Stoops said, no, not really. That's a problem. There are 3 linebackers, not 1. And so those other 2 really are going to have to play well, Khalid Henderson and Corey Brown. And really they're going to the positions that are supposed to be good, and those are so few and far between, they're going to have to be. They're going to have to be very good. The defensive line has to be great, I think. Bud Dupree and Zadarius Smith, and there's a guy. They need him to get healthy ASAP. He's still not practicing with his ankle, but those guys, they need to be as advertised and really dominate to take some pressure off the guys behind them. I think defense is where it's really the really big question mark. I think when it's all said and done, they may not be great. They certainly won't be what they eventually will be under Neil Brown, but I think they'll have a decent offense this year. I think they've found some playmakers, and whoever the quarterback is will do a competent job. I think defense is the huge deciding factor, the huge question mark on this team.
All right, Kyle Tucker from the Louisville Courier-Journal. Always appreciate your insight. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me.
That's our show for tonight. Be sure to join us again on Monday. We're going to continue our football countdown and talk with Steve Schimbaum of Game On Nation about how his program worked for UK football. He's back doing some motivational stuff like he did with the basketball team. Remember, as always, you can check us out at facebook.com/Kentucky Sports Television or on Twitter at KSTV_sports. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you again on Monday.